Near mint condition, the home of collected editions.
That cover's so awesome.
This is Mr. Chris Claremont, a legend.
Melanie goes,
Tired.
Happy Monday, all you minties. Uncanny Omar here from Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions. And today, join me as I do an advanced look at the Punisher by Rick Remender Omnibus from Marvel Comics. This is the new printing, so let's go ahead and check this book out together. And welcome back, everybody. Before going any further, a big thank you to David Gabriel and the fine folks at Marvel for sending us an advanced copy of this omnibus. This book is due out in the direct market and book market on April 22nd or 23rd, depending on where you get your books. And this is the latest printing of The Punisher by Rick Remender Omnibus. It's been previously printed before. It's only had one printing. So this is the second printing. And I know this is the one that you all voted for. So a lot of people are super excited for this book. So this is the direct market cover. This is the one that's supplied by Dan Brereton. And I do have my original copy over here. This is the same cover by Mike McCone they're using for the standard edition. So looking the same here, but let's look at the spines here. Looking Punisher, and the little logo there, Rick Remender, and then of course Franken-Castle, and then the back of the book right here. Parental advisory, because there is one ruthless issue in here. The original printing was $99.99. The new printing is $100. Let's look underneath the dust jacket. That's the old school way. That's actually when they were trying to switch over from the faux leather to what we have now. But the flaps there. And then, of course, underneath the dust jacket here, this time around, we do have a new image. Who's this jigsaw puzzle looking guy? But yeah, they were starting to switch from the faux leather to actually art on board. And one of the first things they did was take away that foil to the logo and of course the title of the book. So this is right around that transition period. Now, this has nothing on the back, by the way, whereas this has a spine and then that back piece right there by Jason Pearson. All right. Let's actually put the dust jacket back on and talk about where it fits into the reading order of Punisher in omnibus format. So it goes right after, at least I'm putting it, right after the Max by Jason Aaron omnibus. And I know the Max series isn't really canon, although some of the things they talk about, but yes, realistically, Max isn't canon, but Marvel Knights was. But anyway, that's where I'm putting it. And now let's go ahead and crack it open and talk about the stories found in here. Look at this artwork. And of course, look at the extras. And then we'll do a comparison to the original printing. All right, let's go ahead and open up the Omni here. We have this piece by Jerome Pena. This is the Punisher title there, written by Rick Remender. And then, of course, broken down by different story arcs. So you have artists like Jerome Pena, Tang Ang Huat, Jason Pearson, John Romita Jr., Tony Moore, and Roland Boshi, and Jeff DePaulo, but also Steven Segovia and Dan Brereton, just to name a few of the artists, and of course Mike McCone supplying a lot of the covers. I absolutely love the homage covers that are included in the first 5 issues here. So collected in here is Punisher, the 2009 series 1 through 16, Punisher Annual 2009, The Dark Reign, The List Punisher, Franken-Castle 17 through 21. You're not missing Franken-Castle 1 through 16. It just becomes Franken-Castle. And then Dark Wolverine 88 and 89. And Punisher in the Blood, 5-issue miniseries. 760 pages, $100. All right. Really quick, before I talk about this era, I did want to tell you that this happens after the Matt Fraction run of Punisher. So it goes like I mentioned when I was putting this on the shelf. The Max line isn't really canon, although some people are like, oh, some things took place. Yeah, the origin of, Punisher Born. Yeah, but that wasn't the way it was supposed to be. Marvel was just tired of Garth Ennis just treating their characters, their A-listers like Spider-Man, Wolverine, and Daredevil like crap. So they were like, you know what? Just have your own universe. You can do with the Max line, whatever you want. Because that's all Garth Ennis wanted to do, was write a story about Punisher coming back from Vietnam and fighting a bunch of bad guys. All right, so that is something to keep in mind. In here, you are going to see a lot of stories that tie into the entire Marvel Universe. I happen to like stories like this. I don't know if they're for everybody because I'm a stickler for continuity. I want to know everything. And I know some of my viewers are and some don't care. So does this stand alone? Reading it by itself, absolutely it does. You just have to understand that the Punisher is part of a bigger Marvel universe. All right, so some minor spoilers going in, and I'll talk about some big spoilers later. But for right now, minor spoilers going into the setup of this. It kicks off with this really cool storyline where after the Secret Invasion, Norman Osborn kind of became the hero of the Marvel Universe by saving everybody and let's just say disposing of the Queen of the Skrulls. So he builds his own shield, if you will. It's called Hammer, and he builds his own Avengers called the Dark Avengers, and one of the Dark Avengers is this guy right here, Bob Reynolds, who we talked about if you watch my overviews of the trade paperbacks. This is the Sentry. Now, the Punisher's like, no, hell no. Norman Osborn's a bad guy. I'm going to go and snipe him out. So that's what he tries to do. He tries to kill him. And of course, we have the Sentry here, the guy that has the power of 1,000 or 1,000,000 exploding suns, depending on the writer. So, of course, he catches the bullet before he hits Norman Osborn. He goes after Frank. And this is when you see the type of character that Frank-Castle is. He's doing all kinds of gymnastics getting away from the Sentry. This is the Sentry who could just, snap his fingers and the Punisher would be gone. But he makes for a formidable foe. He's running away from him, dislocating his shoulders. There's things that are just cutting away at his ribs, and he's not giving up. He's trying to kill him with acid, and he's like, oh yeah, that probably won't even mess his hair up. How he gets away is a very Punisher thing to do. So that's what happens in the first issue. We establish this relationship between Frank-Castle and the character of Norman Osborn, who of course is now leading the Dark Avengers and leading a lot of the military for the United States. Again, the homage covers. You're welcome. Now we're introduced to another character. This character will become a big part of this storyline. This is Henry. I'm not going to say his last name because a little bit of a secret with his character. But he will become the new microchip. Now, if you had read Garth Ennis' Marvel Knights run, you know what ended up happening to the original microchip. I'm not going to give that away, but he is MIA during this time. Now, something happens in the Matt Fraction run that if you haven't read the Matt Fraction run, you might be like, wait a second, I thought that happened in Garth Ennis. Yeah. That's why I said, maybe read the Mad Fraction run if you want to, before this. So they have become mortal enemies. You have Frank-Castle against Norman Osborn. Now, Norman Osborn is going to stop at nothing to get at Frank-Castle, and Henry wants to become his new microchip. That's kind of the relationship they have. They're like, okay, sure, you can become the new microchip. Then we get Parker Robbins involved. That's right. Norman's like, you know what, man, screw this. I'm done putting up with the Punisher. Do whatever it takes to take him down. And he does. And this is when it gets really cool, because I love when stories are connected. So what Parker Robbins, the Hood, does is he has a lot of different powers, of course. But one of them has this demonic type of powers that he is able to bring villains back from the dead. People to go after Frank-Castle. And if you were a big fan of the Marvel Universe, especially during Mark Gruenwald's Captain America run, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, it's the Scourge. It's the guy that was going around killing people. So it's all the Scourge for the most part. So I'll just say most of the Scourge victims that were killed throughout the Marvel Universe over the years, that's who the Hood has go after Frank-Castle. And it becomes for a freaking awesome chase. You get to see Frank deal with the Hood, and it gets dark with what the Hood does later on. to Frank-Castle, you're like, holy crap, this is not a Max book, but I can see why it has parental ratings, like, or parental, what the hell did I call it? The parental advisory, sorry. I always avoided those when I was younger. But it's really cool to see, like, a lot of these old characters come back, like, and they're actually legit, like, you start feeling sorry for, like, the human fly, you're like, yeah, actually, that kind of makes sense. I kind of feel bad for that guy. But you've got other characters like Death Adder and Basilisk and Miracle Man, Firebrand, but also like characters like Titania. Or characters, actually, Titania has a really good story later on with, is it Letha? I think it's in the annual. It makes for a really interesting story. G.W. Bridge from the pages of X-Force gets involved in here. The Avengers get involved. Of course, when, he's trying to taking out Norman Osborn isn't as easy as he thought it was going to be. That's what the first story arc is, and it's a long story, it goes on for about a year, but it's such a good cat and mouse chase type of story that Rick Remender, as silly as some of these ideas are, really understands the character of the Punisher. And at the end of the day, that's what you want out of a Punisher story. If you're expecting the seriousness and I hate to use the word maturity, especially with some of the things that Garth Ennis did, but that level of storytelling, this is different. But it's good. It's a reminder of why the Punisher is such a cool part of the Marvel Universe. And how sometimes he doesn't fit in. This is the team up with, I'll just say, quote-unquote, team up with Spider-Man. Beautiful artwork by Jason Pearson. Titania and Letha had never looked this good. I mean, they look like they're like Jack Kirby creations. But my goodness. Then we get to Dark Reign, the list. So this is the one-shot. Okay. Now, for this, if you don't want to know anything about Franken-Castle, and I've sold you on the book, like, oh, I like the Hood, or I like the Scourge story, and I want to see where this goes. This is the story that divides a lot of Punisher fans. So, in order to talk about this, I have to talk about some spoilers that happen in here. So, just in case moving forward, spoilers for Franken-Castle, if you don't even know what that is. Okay. So this is a very divisive story. A lot of people, and I remember when this was coming out, a lot of people at the comic store were pissed off. They were like, no way would the Punisher go out like that. But if you've been reading the Punisher, it kind of makes sense. Okay, first of all, I am not an apologist, or I'm not apologizing at all for the character of the Daken, whatever his name is. I know that he has his own fan base. I was never really a fan. So I'm not taking up for the story, but what I'm saying is that it kind of makes sense, though. Whenever you have the Punisher going up against supervillains and superheroes that could take him out, like I mentioned, the Sentry with the snap of his fingers, but he was holding back, trying to capture Frank alive, then you send someone out like Dark Wolverine. So this is Dark Wolverine. This is Wolverine's son, the Ken. He's that edgy character that a lot of people really liked in Daniel Way's run. Eventually became Dark Wolverine and joined the Dark Avengers. He's got 3 claws like his dad. He gets into this brutal fight. And he thought this was going to be easy, right? Like, this is an old guy he's going after. But people forget that this is a Vietnam veteran. This is a guy that knew how to fight. People that were coming after him, and how to be strategic about it. And it's this brutal, and I mean brutal, badass fight between both of them. And a lot of people didn't see this coming. So again, spoilers. I hate spoiling things for people, but people do want. I need to talk about this in order to talk about the next story arc. All right, so Daken ends up just cutting away at Frank-Castle, like slicing his. This is why you can tell people were pissed, right? Especially if you're a Frank-Castle fan. You're like, oh my god, this poor man's Wolverine's killing him. Yeah, he chops his head off. He dismembers Frank-Castle the Punisher, and you're like, okay, surely he's gonna wake up. Surely it was a dream. Nope. Norman Osborn sent him after the Punisher, and he died. Like, there's his body. He just knocks it off the side of the building. What the hell? Like, all right, let's get nuts. Let's talk about Franken-Castle, because in the very next issue, we start off on Monster Island. What are we even doing here? This has nothing to do with the Punisher. Yet. Now, this is where things get crazy. This is when things are like, what? So on Monster Island, we meet these group of Hunter of Monsters Special Force. They look like samurai with guns, and they're hunting, and they're speaking in broken English, and they're hunting monsters on Monster Island. Next, we cut back to that character that I was talking about that I said would play a big part in Frank-Castle's life, who became the new microchip, and that is Henry. Now, again, Henry has his own secrets, but I don't want to spoil what that is. Henry actually sees Decken, like, slice Frank open and just push him down. By the way, this is Hammer agents. Yes, they are using goblin gliders. Frank's body parts end up in the sewer where the moloids are there gathering them up. And this, oh, I love when the Man-Thing, there's some really cool moments between Franken-Castle and Man-Thing. There's even like a little bit of a fastball special, if you will. Yes! The touch of Man-Thing. Fear, baby, fear. All right, so what's happening? We see words here. We see some word bubbles. People are talking like, is this going to work? I don't know. He looks too big. He doesn't look right. And what ends up happening? It's Morbius and Werewolf by Night. That's right. Jack Russell and Dr. Morbius. Let's not forget that he was a doctor, if you will. And they're both putting together, and of course Man-Thing helping out, putting together Frank-Castle. Right? Like they're like, okay, we saved you. But in order to truly be saved, you got to take these pills. Because if you don't take these pills, your dead brain is going to start taking over and the monster will start taking over. And Frank's like, what am I? Like, he sounds like a Frankenstein monster. Hence the name Franken-Castle. So they were able to put him back together again. And they're like, look, we need some help. So they've got Manphibian, they've got the living mummy, and they're like, we need some help. There are people that are coming after us. And Frank's like, no, like, go to hell. I'm not going to help you all. I'm a monster. I was a monster before hunting down villains, but now I'm a literal monster. And eventually, he makes friends with one of the moloids. Yeah, this is what he's like, say good luck. And he decides, okay, you know what, I'll do it. Then we get to see the person that is behind the Hunter of Monster Special Forces. So you have the character of Yamato, and you have the Captain of Science, but then you meet Hellsguard, and he has his own way of torturing these monsters and finding out where they are hiding, because he's back on Monster Island trying to find out where the monsters went. Frank's supposed to take these pills, but he's having a hard time holding on to them because he's a giant monster. And again, he makes friends with this little guy, one of the little moloids, and he's like, you know, you're all right. I think I'll help out, and you can find out what happens. Eventually, they do get attacked. So Frank decides, as Franken-Castle, to go and help these guys. Now, one more thing I want to say about the story is this right here. It is the connection he has with Hellsguard. So Hellsguard is the guy that's behind everything. And there's a flashback here that takes place in Germany in 1898, where Hellsguard comes home and his family is turning into werewolves. So he has to kill his family and then the entire town. And then when people come after him, like the sheriff comes after him, he's like, hey, you kill the entire town. He's like, no, you don't understand. There's a team up with Ulysses Blood, so the Bloodstone gets involved, and he carries out a mission. So kind of like Frank, in the way that Frank sees the Mafia shoot down his entire family, and he swears vengeance against the Mafia. That's kind of the way Hellsguard is. Except Hellsguard's like, I'm going to kill every monster and hunt them down, even if it means turning myself into a mechanical monster. So he created this armor now, like he lives in this armor. But that's who these samurai are working for. So, I mean, it is very in your face, right? That both of these guys are monsters hunting down people, blaming them for the death of their loved ones. But of course, Frank's is like, hey, these are villains anyway. I'm going to shoot them down. I'm going to do things my way. So you can see, if you've never read this, that's what this is about. So you can see why people, like if they were Punisher people, like how dare they treat the Punisher like this. So whenever a story shows up that people are upset about, I'm like, are we really upset about the Punisher doing this? We've seen the Punisher turn into an angel and shoot demons down with an angel gun. And then Garth Ennis was like, nope, I told those angels to take a hike. If we've seen him turn into a Frank, like the silliest things happen, but it works and it has a lot of heart, man. I love what some of the lines here. It's Rick Remender. He knows how to pull at the heartstrings. There's a beautiful moment with like Man-Thing and Franken-Castle teaming up, talking about bringing the fire with him, bringing the fear, because there's a lot of people out there that are going to be fearing. Oh man, it's so badass, and it works. All right, that's all I will say about it. Okay, no. There is a rematch between Decken and Franken-Castle, but now Franken-Castle is no longer just a man. Again, Microchip working away at the computers, because that's what Chip was really good at, but now the new Microchip is doing the same thing. And yeah, the big fight. Now, I don't want to spoil what ends up happening through here, so I'll just move on to the last book, or I guess the last part of this Omni. So this is the return of Jigsaw, who we saw a little bit towards the beginning. But he's not alone. He brings in other Jigsaw family members. And Frank-Castle's back. He's back in New York and cleaning the streets up and going after this character right here. It's also another character that's back I don't want to reveal. And this is kind of what ties everything together, from the very beginning, from the first issue, what anything had to do with this particular story. Like, everything comes to an end here. And it does come full circle. Like, the things he was introducing through the first few issues do come full circle here with this ending miniseries. Now, in the back, we have a nice Punisher saga. I love that they don't do this anymore, but they used to put the saga books out on stands to kind of like give you a catch up, like, hey, this is what the Punisher has been up to so far. These are like the highlights of his adventures. Nowadays, I think they just rely on the internet or some jerk on the YouTube telling you what Frank-Castle's been up to. I'm pointing at myself. These are some of the character files here. The ones that were dead, they come back with that Hood storyline. They're given like 30 days to hunt down the Punisher. And then we have some of the letter pages, not a lot, just a couple, and variant covers. So you have this one here, again, mainly focusing on the Green Goblin, of course, who's like, that's who his target was in the first 5 issues. And then these covers right here, and the dark green, the List Punisher, and this Iron Man by Dave Taylor has nothing to do with Frank-Castle. And the back of the book. Now, let's look at the binding. 760 pages. It is sewn binding. And this one is printed at the Mega Print. So, paper stock is thicker glossy paper stock than what I've seen them use before. So what I want to do is actually, let's do a comparison real quick. All right, so let's go through the very beginning here. This one was printed at the Donnelly printer in 2012. And right off the bat, yeah, the paper stock is the thicker paper stock we used to have in Omnis. Compared to this one over here on the right-hand side. Now, I do want to point or look at some lighter pages so we can see the type of bleed through, the differences. And also the way that the book lays over. Over here, it actually lays a little bit better than over here. Over here, you have to hold it down a little bit. It had a little bit tighter binding. And the bleed through is a little more prominent over in the new printing. And that's due to the type of paper stock that it is using. But as you can see, even as I'm flipping through here, actually that looks about the same. And this does lay over a little bit better. So let's look at a double page spread. So this is the original printing and the new printing. You can actually see the sewn binding there. So less gutter loss over here. Just a little more gutter loss over here, but not by much. So if you have the original printing, it's nothing to freak out about. It actually, it's not that bad at all. It just looks a little bit better over here. But again, paper stock is thicker here than over here. But that's it. That is Punisher by Rick Remender. And that, as they say, is that. If you are interested in purchasing this omnibus, don't forget to check out our sponsors. BD Cosmos, the Canadian leader in graphic novels. They have a physical storefront in Montreal, Quebec, and their website, bdcosmos.com, offers 25% off your order of over $99 or more, and free shipping everywhere in Canada for every order of $250 or more.
Their shipping care is exceptional. Your books will stay cozy through the rough Canadian weather and arrive to you in Near mint condition.
After checkout, let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way, and you'll be added to the monthly $25 gift card raffle. Entries are valid for new and returning customers.
Don't be afraid to call or email them. Ask them questions. Their staff is always happy to help guide you towards the right purchase. Visit their website, bdcosmos.com, for more. BD Cosmos, with rewards and raffles taking care of customers in Canada. Eh?
CheapGraphicNovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget, the CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your order confirmation email, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. And that was the content, the page count, build, and of course the comparison to the original printing. If you have any questions, leave them down below. Don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe, and ring that bell for notifications. If you have any questions, also leave all your questions down below. What other era of the Punisher do you want to see collected in omnibus format? That's it, everybody. Stay healthy and safe out there. Much love.